I thought I had it all figured out. Years of chart study, countless hours on YouTube, expensive courses that promised the Holy Grail. Yet every week I sat at my screen watching my balance slide lower and lower. The hardest part wasn't losing money. It was losing belief in myself. Until one day everything snapped. I realized it wasn't my strategy that needed fixing. It was me. And that realization changed my entire life. Let me take you back to a random Wednesday morning. The kind of morning where the air feels heavy and you already sense trouble before even touching the keyboard. I had just read an overnight article about a stock moving big on news. I told myself, this is it. This is my moment. My palms were sweaty. My heart was pounding so loud I thought the neighbors could hear it. I saw the breakout candle form. My cursor hovered over the buy button. Click. I was in. Within seconds the price shot up. My P&L flashed green. My ego skyrocketed with it. I felt unstoppable. I started planning what I'd tell my friends, how I nailed this trade. But then, the candle started pulling back. Slowly at first, then faster. Green turned to yellow, then red. Instead of exiting, I convinced myself, it's just a pullback. It'll bounce. I moved my stop lower, then removed it completely. Minutes turned into hours. By the end of the day, my account was down more than I had planned to risk all week. I closed the trade in shame and stared at the monitor, unable to move. This wasn't just one bad day. It was a cycle. A loop that repeated endlessly. Each time I told myself next time will be different. But it never was. I blamed the market. I blamed algorithms. I blamed my broker's fills. But deep down I knew. It wasn't the market. It was me. That night I sat alone in my apartment. The room was silent except for the hum of my computer. I pulled up my trading journal looking for answers. What I saw wasn't a collection of setups or edge-based trades. It was a graveyard of emotional decisions. My entries were driven by fear of missing out. My exits were ruled by hope. My position sizes were all over the place depending on how lucky I felt that day. I realized I was like a gambler at a slot machine, convinced that one more spin would make everything right. I asked myself, what if the problem isn't out there? What if it's in here? That question hurt. It stripped me of all excuses. It forced me to look at the one thing I had control over, me. I stopped trading for validation. When I started trading, I didn't just want to make money. I wanted to prove I was smart. To my friends, to my family, mostly to myself. I wanted the screenshots, the big green days, the bragging rights. In my mind, each trade was a test of my worth. Think about it. When you trade for validation, every loss feels like a personal attack. Every win becomes a temporary fix, like a drug hit. I remember one day at a family barbecue. My cousin asked how trading was going. I lied and said, great, just made 10% this week. In reality, I was down 20% that month. I was so addicted to being seen as the smart trader that I couldn't face the truth. This addiction to external approval bled into my trading. I forced trades. I over-leveraged. I broke rules just to chase that feeling of being right. The breakthrough came when I read Mark Douglas's words. I'm not my profit. I am my process. Those words haunted me for weeks. Eventually, I wrote them on a sticky note and placed it on my monitor. At first, it felt like giving up. But slowly, I started detaching my identity from my results. Green day? Nice. Red day? Fine, as long as I followed my plan. The more I focused on execution over outcome, the freer I felt. I no longer needed to win to feel worthy. I just needed to trade well. 2. I accepted uncertainty fully. For years, I believed each trade had to work. If a setup failed, I felt betrayed. I thought the market was against me. But the market isn't a person. It doesn't know I exist. It doesn't care. It simply moves. I learned this lesson the hard way during an earnings season. A setup looked perfect. Strong fundamentals, clean technicals, positive news flow. I bet big, bigger than usual because I knew it would work. 10 minutes after entry, the stock tanked on unexpected guidance. I froze. My stop hit. Loss taken. I was furious. I blamed analysts, news outlets, the universe. But the truth? I had attached my self-worth to a single outcome. Mark Douglas calls it thinking in probabilities. You must understand that even the best setups can fail, and they will. I started repeating to myself every morning, anything can happen. My job isn't to predict. My job is to execute flawlessly. Once I embraced that, each trade lost its emotional charge. Wins became data points. Losses became data points, all part of a larger sample size. I started feeling like a casino instead of a gambler. Casinos don't care if one player wins big tonight. They focus on their edge over thousands of bets. As traders, we must do the same. This mindset shift stabilized my equity curve more than any strategy ever did. 3. I built self-trust through tiny promises. Before this shift, my confidence was a facade. I said I was disciplined. But I wasn't. I moved stops. I added to losers. I exited winners too early. Every time I broke a rule, I broke a promise to myself. These tiny betrayals destroyed my self-trust brick by brick. Think of it like a relationship. If someone constantly lies to you, you stop trusting them. If you constantly lie to yourself in trading, your confidence evaporates. My turnaround started with one rule. Always place the stop immediately after entry. No exceptions. It seems small, but it was everything. That one act became a daily promise to myself. Each day I kept that promise, I felt stronger. After a month, I added a second rule. Never move a stop further away from the entry. Then another. Size properly based on predefined risk. Each rule was another brick. Over time, my self-trust was no longer conditional on outcomes. It was based on my ability to honor my word to myself. I wasn't just trading better. I was becoming someone I respected. Someone I could rely on in the face of chaos. I once coached a friend who kept losing even with a profitable system. He had the data, the backtests, the perfect edge. But every time he took a few losses, he'd abandon the plan and jump to a new one. Why? Because he needed to be right more than he needed to follow a process. Once he shifted from I must win to I must execute, his equity curve finally started rising. Another friend, Sarah, had a different problem. She was obsessed with big wins to show her Twitter followers. She risked too much on each trade and blew up 3 accounts in 1 year. When she stopped posting her trades publicly and focused on private journaling instead, her trading stabilized. She no longer traded to be admired. She traded to grow. I don't have screenshots of million-dollar trades to show you. I don't have Lumbos or beach villas to flex on Instagram. But what I do have is something far more valuable. I wake up each morning and I don't feel dread. I don't need the market to validate me anymore. I know that if I follow my plan, I'm winning, no matter what my P&L says today. I kept losing until I changed these 3 specific things. 1. I stopped trading for validation. 2. I accepted uncertainty fully. 3. I built self-trust through tiny promises. These weren't just trading lessons. They were life lessons. Now, I see each trade as a single brushstroke on a giant canvas. Some strokes might look ugly up close. But step back and you see the masterpiece forming. Ask yourself, are you trading to prove something to others? Or are you here to execute a plan? Do you need each trade to validate your self-worth? Or are you committed to the bigger picture? Can you trust yourself to follow through even when it feels uncomfortable? Because I promise you, I kept losing until I changed these specific things. Once I did, everything, and I mean everything, changed. Mastery in trading isn't about predicting the market perfectly. It's about mastering yourself so thoroughly that external noise no longer controls you. And if you can do that, you'll discover a freedom most traders never taste. A freedom that doesn't just make you a better trader, it makes you a better human.